Back to Contemporary Black Voices, where we talk about issues impacting Black America. And we were talking about whether Vice President Harris, if she becomes President of the United States, will she be able to meet the needs of the Black community, or could she be another dream deferred? Now, before I ask Caleb his concerns, one of the things that, just observation-wise, one of the things that I really like about this combination between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is, one, we've got a woman who had to work in McDonald's to go to school. She has relatable, she has a relatable upbringing to where a lot of us had to do the same thing. Tim Walz, now I'm a teacher. The ideal that we have a person who was in the classroom for 20-something years, coaching everything, who understands the nature of the cafeteria. You know, that was a shout out, a validation to teachers, that a teacher could become the President of the United States and possibly president. So I like the fact that there is a humanness to this entire campaign. And of course, I know that there's been concerns about AI touching up the crowds, but just the excitement, the hope, just even right now, the whole atmosphere in the country has calmed down. So I think overall, it took a sister to calm folks down.
I really like you bringing that out, because I never really thought about it in those terms, about teachers being of, as Sly and the Family Stone would say, everyday people. Whereas, and Kamala having worked at McDonald's, I think those are things that help to make them humanistic, as opposed to super people that nobody can really get to. So I'm glad that you brought that out.
Yeah, because, you know, again, when I saw all of that and realized she's done this, she had to do this, her mother had to save money to buy a house, you know, she went to school, but she worked at McDonald's. A lot of us can relate to that. A lot of us can relate to that. Tim Walz, depending on how you view his military record, he was in the military, he was a classroom teacher, he was a coach. A lot of us can relate to that. And so kudos to the linking up of these two to show the possibilities even more so of what people can and can do if they want to.
Well, Vance has the same, he has the same kind of thing.
Well,
let's give him credit.
Has the same what?
Vance, he comes from a poor family. I think his mother may have been strung out on drugs. He joined the military. He was in the Marines. He worked his way into Yale University.
Did he work his way in, or did somebody let him in?
Well, from what I understand, he worked his way in.
Okay.
To Yale. He wrote that book that became
Hillbilly Elegy.
Right. Yeah, Hillbilly Elegy, that became a movie, and he became successful. He is the same kind of story as Kamala, and probably from a poor background, because Kamala came from a family where the two PhDs. You know, her father was an economics instructor at UCL Berkeley. So she doesn't come from that. She doesn't come from that level that Vance came from.
Right. So with those three, okay, we want to throw Vance into the conversation. So with those three people right there, we can see some accessibility to them. And then you got Trump.
Oh, that's altogether different.
It's a whole different picture.
Vance, people are questioning some of the things that were written in Hillbilly Elegy. And,
they do that all the time.
Well, I mean, no, because there's some questions about how poor his background really was. A lot of the things that he's being teased about is that he's not really from that kind of background. And, you know, they talk about him, you know, his mannerisms, his dress, a lot of things that, I mean, like he's more he's more Wall Street than hillbilly, and so.
Well, he became that, obviously.
But I mean, even then, and so even during his time in the Marine Corps, he was a correspondent. I mean,
Yeah.
he was in the office, he was in
Right,
air conditioning,
yeah.
he was a reporter. So I mean, a lot of times people, and he has the nerve to question Walls, who was.
Well, that's a different. That's not what I'm addressing.
No, I understand what you're addressing, but I mean, it's just there's some questions about.
He was a desk jockey.
There's some questions about Vance and the story he told about his upbringing, his poverty, his 3 different name changes over time.
What side of the fence he's on?
There's a lot of I'm just saying there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of questions there. I do think that and yeah, Harris does come from a very academic background.
Very,
Yeah,
elite.
yeah.
Very elite.
Let me ask a question though, Fred, about that. Don't most black families, wouldn't you say that we have a lot of people who have excelled from an educational standpoint? And I'm not talking about your everyday rappers or whatever. I'm talking about people who aspire to be something. Don't their families, if you're white, you're right. You don't necessarily have to do that. But when you're black people and the people that I grew up with that were on my block and whatever, they all were accomplished people. Okay, so by you saying that, yes, they were accomplished, that was the norm in the black community, was it not?
No, not at all. You know that's not the norm in the black
Okay, so when we
community.
talk about the black
Berkeley
community,
PhD.
Yeah.
Berkeley, that's kind of not the norm, though.
That's not the norm. In economics.
Yeah, economic professor, that's kind of not the norm. But.
Well, I want to say, I was listening to Cornel West, and he made an interesting point to me. He said that what blacks are being asked to do is to accept this person without really knowing her. And he said, somebody gives you a box, and they say, accept the box, don't look what's inside. Oh, just take our word. Look, don't look inside. And that's somewhat what we're being asked to do. And he brought up something that's very important to me is, you know, what is she going to say about Palestine? Is she going to change that? Right. Is that important to us? I mean, from the humanity standpoint, man, 40,000 have been killed. And she gives a rah-rah, you know, she gives a little speech when he comes here, but she hasn't said anything. Right. And is that an issue that's important to the black community?
So, and that's what I was going to ask, that question. But with West, and I'm not a West fan, everybody knows that. So, but
we got to discuss that.
Westmore,
Cornel.
West.
Even with Cornel's question,
not Kanye.
I think that's BS. We don't know her. She was the district attorney for the state of California. I mean, she was the attorney general for the state of California. We know her. She's been well vetted. California is the largest, most powerful state in the country. So she's been well vetted. People have looked into her records. Her opponents have looked into her records. We know this woman. She was the attorney, the district attorney for the city of California, right? So I mean, for San Francisco.
Alameda County, yeah.
Yeah.
We know this woman.
But do we know Claude West?
What'd you say?
Do we know Claude West? Is he
Cornel West?
Cornel West. You know,
Right.
is he feeling a little pain right now because he's not getting?
It's every time there's a black politician that is operating at a high level, he has something he needs to say.
So what we're gonna do here is, I'm gonna give each of you 15 seconds to answer the big question: Is she a dream deferred? Chris.
Yes.
Why?
Because I think this election, as I have said from my viewpoint, it's about America and it's not really about black people right now. And we've got to work ourselves up to be able to do things and ask for things as a whole.
Okay. Fred.
It's according to what you expect in that dream. Okay. If you're expecting her to just do marvelous things specifically for the black community, it's a dream deferred.
And Caleb.
You know,
15
again, I
seconds.
think I'll move for it. So it depends on what you expect from her. You know what I mean? I think we need to temper our expectations. We understand what a president is capable of, what her role is, what Congress's role is. And so I think that we need to make sure that our expectations are tempered by realism. Also, I think that we're going to be very disappointed. I don't see any kind of foreign policy experience from her or Walsh. And again, like Fred said, she hasn't mentioned Palestine. She hasn't mentioned Ukraine. She hasn't mentioned anything as far as what she's going to do with America's foreign policy.
Okay, then, well, that's our question for today. And with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Contemporary Black Voices. And you have a great weekend. As we say, we're telling our stories our way.